This movie did not skip leg day.
Yeah, I will say that.
That's my only good joke for this whole podcast, so savor it.
Really?
Taste
Then,
it.
I guess all the other jokes are going to be worse.
Oh.
Yikes. Anyway.
Yeah.
Cinematic Fantastic.
Klaatu, Barada, Nikto.
I'll show you who I am and what I am.
Bitten by a werewolf and lives, becomes a werewolf himself.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello and welcome to the Cinematic Fantastic Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Weatherford.
And your other host, William Weatherford.
Get ready for opinions, dad jokes,
and bad jokes
as we watch and review sci-fi and fantasy films from the classics of yesteryear to the new favorites of today.
Savior of the universe. He'll save every one of us. He's a miracle. King of the impossible. He'll stand for every one of us. He'll save with a mighty hand. Every man, every woman, every child with a flash. Welcome everyone to Cinematic Fantastic Movie Podcast's 50th episode, where we are doing basically the Flash Gordon serial, but it's in movie form.
Yeah, it's the first serial, the one that came out in 1936, but was reconfigured into movie form in 1946.
Yeah,
10 years later.
For the sake of discussion, it's the same story, so technically we're covering the serial for reasons I'll say later. In terms of what they sacrificed by turning it into a movie versus not. So, what makes Flash Gordon significant? I mean, I might have heard that it was a comic book back then. Why is it significant? Well, it was an inspiration for George Lucas to make Star Wars. I think the story was that he got kicked off of making the 1980s movie or something, or like he was putting work into that. Or
his original idea was he wanted to make a Flash Gordon movie, and he couldn't get the rights to it at the time. And he was like, "Okay, I'll make my own. I'll make my own. It'll be an homage to all that."
Yeah, probably about the time they were thinking of making the 80s movie. He was like, "I want to make one." He couldn't do it, so that turned into Luke Skywalker.
We
got Star Wars.
George Lucas won because Star Wars, the person who did the first draft was named Lee Brackett. She's a female, pulpy kind of science fiction author. And he's like, I want somebody who's going to get that pulp sensibility of the serials mixed with, kind of the newer sci-fi. And so she wrote the first draft of Empire Strikes Back, but that's just a side little bit of trivia. But those movies were very successful, and the Flash Gordon movie that came out in 1980, not so much. It did okay. I think it's more of a cult favorite because a lot of people grew up that watched that movie, and they got the.
But for those who did,
we'll talk about that later.
All the characters are basically shared with this one. And the interesting thing is that the opening Star Wars crawl that's so famous came from the third Flash Gordon serial.
And Buck Rogers, which is related to this in a specific kind of way.
This serial stars Buster Crabbe.
Yes, and Buck Rogers
he looks
actually
good, and he's a pretty good actor.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
I will say, there's a lot of moments in this movie as well where they open up the chest to get to see it, and then particularly later, when he's like in a hot furnace, he's glistening with sweat, so all the ladies can absolutely faint at the sight.
Okay, let me give you a couple points about this. I don't know if you want me to go ahead and go into this a little bit, but Buck Rogers came out in 1928-29 as a comic strip, and Buck Rogers was a modern man and he gets like frozen, suspended animation, wakes up in the 25th century. And, of course, it's not, I don't think what our future is going to be like, but it's what they imagined in 1928 what the future would be.
We'll cover in this one as well. That also has a vision of it.
And Buck Rogers, the group known as King Features Syndicate, or King Features, I don't know what they're called, but they were like, we want our own comic strip character. There's this other character named...
Wait, we talked about... Now, was it Castle? last time we talked about a Castle films that I was like, wait, is that where King went into this? But I guess not. But
no. I think it might have been.
We'll talk about later how this this serial is a Universal production, and so they reused Universal horror.
Oh, are you kidding? Oh my goodness!
Set props
and
for
music,
this one,
and music, both classical music from Tchaikovsky and Liszt.
Anyway, that's besides the point. Continue on. But Buck Rogers.
Yeah, Buck Rogers predates this by a little bit, and King Features goes, "We want our own kind of Buck Rogers," and he goes, "Okay, we'll call him Flash Gordon."
Didn't 1928 like Thief of Baghdad, like the Errol Flynn
silent
sort of
stuff,
characters?
Yeah. Okay, now
back then, like inspired George Lucas as well.
Yes, but there's if we want to talk about George Lucas inspirations, we'd be here all day, and I have some of them off the top of my head. I'll give you.
So is covering this plot. So we are preambling a little bit. So yeah, this movie was basically them taking the Flash Gordon serial, of which was 13 episodes, I believe, totaling in like a 4 hour and 5 minutes of content, all squished down into an hour by literally chopping like the whole reel. Because there are frequent audio cuts every time like this happens. They also like change the music as well, most of which is quite different in tone. Because like the serial has like a lot of like sweeping violins or quiet undercurrents, stuff like that. While the movie adds like some comical, playful music, or
and they're lifted from movies like The Black Cat or Bride of Frankenstein and The Mummy and things. Well, some.
Yeah, there are like a lot of scenes where like they did not have the comical music before, like when they arrive on this planet, they have like playful music, which is like it like decreases the seriousness of the movie. Which is
the original music was better, was more suspenseful, probably because
the serial is the main the serial is the main basis for this. That is the best content that exists out because Rocketship, by cutting it down, is like made inferior, as well as like changing up the music to be more comical. This movie was
not.
Everything
this movie came out
fast.
in 1940. This movie came out in 1946. It was not called Flash Gordon. It was called Rocketship.
Merely called Rocketship.
Yeah,
but we call it Flash Gordon in because one on Earth is Rocketship without Flash Gordon.
Right. And they made other versions of this later, and they renamed it again. For reasons that
I think there are like 5 different names for this one serial thing. So we do get some teeny hints about what we're in for at the beginning, although they cut down anything that isn't a credit, which is basically the cast sequence. And they don't add transitions at all. It just like chop, and then the audio, like when it like rises up, chop, it goes right back down immediately.
Yeah, it's kind of sloppy. It's kind of sloppy.
Very sloppy.
So why couldn't they use the music?
It'll lower.
Because Universal
it'll really lower
owned it?
Like your. If you only see this movie, it'll lower like your ground of expectation for this movie to be like, it's inferior in a way.
Yeah.
But you can still watch this movie. All of the serial and the movies are a complete experience in and of themselves.
And they're available online. You can find them if you seek them out.
We also see like an Air City, some submarine action, this alien tree-looking thing with like 1,000 like worshippers, I guess, around it, which is like
I think some of those scenes were from other movies too. Like there was a movie called Just Imagine that was a sci-fi comedy musical that came out in 36, 37, something like that. And they lifted some scenes from that, like their scene where they're dancing. They took a statue of an Egyptian god, and
we'll talk about this later.
Yeah, and that's stolen.
Yeah,
not stolen, but
we'll talk about this later. That's from the Mummy.
That's how.
From the end of the Mummy.
That's how they save money. Money from the mummy.
That's how they save money. Anyway, we start in a astronomical observatory, and it seems a planet is unwaveringly crashing down upon the planet Earth. I nearly said Termina. Which would have been funny for everyone who knows what Termina is.
It's no moon. It's a space. It is kind of.
It is a planet.
That's no moon. That's a space station. George Lucas didn't use that at all. I'm sure everything he came up with was perfectly original.
Force Awakens totally didn't rip off this.
Well, it ripped off itself. It ripped off A New Hope.
The world is in a frenzy. What is interesting is in the serial, it shows 7 countries in a frenzy, and there are 5 countries in the actual movie. Because they cut
out a couple,
India and Africa.
Yep.
Which,
boo, racist.
Yeah, just so you know, there's gonna be some things that are, like, disagreeable, but it's the 30s. It's the middle of the 30s, man. So,
Yeah,
But keep in mind, this is, like, one of the... I think this is the first fully science fiction serial that we have. So, give it credit, man. Give it credit.
Credit where credit's due.
Even if they do some weird things with it.
It outlived a lot of other stuff. I mean, it has legs.
That's why
Let's
they
just put
made
it that way.
the second serial because of this one, and then they made the third serial because of that one, and then they made Star Wars because of the third serial. So, the planet is called Mongo. Well, as we find out later, but I'll keep referring to it as Mongo. Are we clear?
Yes, Mongo.
There's this dude named Zarkov, who's some sort of scientist who's planning to go up to Mongo on a rocket ship. Keep in mind...
He believes this on purpose, that the planet is heading toward us on purpose and not by
keep
accident.
in mind that these rocket ships, it would be 30 years before we would make the first real one in real life as well.
Right.
So when we see in this movie, as they are, like, how, like, very similar they are to the rocket ships we would have 30 years after that, is commendable. Even if it's, shady
and
effects.
I haven't watched these movies, but I've heard things about them. We have a double feature coming up later this season that shares a little bit of the name of this.
Oh yeah, I kept confusing Rocketship and Rocketship XM, which was a movie that came out in the 50s.
Yeah, it's a double. We're doing a double feature.
We're doing that with Destination Moon.
Destination Moon.
Both the first science fiction movies.
Yeah, one of the
that
first
got
ones.
popular.
And the thing that made these movies, they're coming up, interesting, is that they are so close to the Apollo missions that we would do in the 1960s. It's so close to how it would actually happen. These movies with Flash Gordon, these serials, are very... we get in them and we have little buttons and we turn things and things happen. And gravity... What's gravity? You know, they have a sky city.
I guess technically, the mission control appeared in this movie, but
kind of. But there actually is a mission control in those movies, and there's actually when these ships leave Earth's gravity, people are floating weightless. It's almost as if we used actual science to. Yeah, this thing has relatively
there's no
little
loss
science.
of gravity. Anyway, some guy named Zarkov planning to go up to Mongo on a rocket ship. Flash Gordon is going to meet these scientists in the astronomical observatory who are observing this planet coming down upon them.
One of them is his dad, and since the world is ending, he's like,
I'm gonna give up polo to
polo. He's a
polo
player, and he's gonna come see. I just want to see you, Dad, because and you know I could put my arm around you and go, let's die together. Like, really, that's awesome. But
yeah, just like that. Yeah. I guess the marriage on the third day of the Zelda game where the moon is coming down.
Oh right, we better hurry up and get married because the world's ending.
Yeah, it literally comes down to the last minute. It's one of the hardest quests to ever go onto on that game. It's so good. Just watch the cutscene once. So they're in an airplane. It's funny because they're sitting on like plastic lawn chairs or something.
It looks like it. Yeah.
Yeah. You can tell a lot of times like the shakiness of everything, like the sort of the budget idea that they had for this, but I'll talk about what it reminds me of later.
$350,000 for all the episodes, and that was like $7 million in today's money.
Yeah, they had quite a bit of gumption to the making of this. So
they reused a lot of stuff and saved money, and they used some lots of shots from these.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later. The plane is hitting turbulence by being too close to Mongo. So they have a whole parachute sequence. He just grabs the lady who we figure out later is Dale, who will eventually become his girlfriend.
Didn't he push her out?
As
he's
is
like,
predictable.
He's
like, scared, are we? And he grabs her and they fly down.
It's like, yoink.
But yeah, I was when I saw this, I was like, okay, what they could do in 1936, man, which was when the serial came out, 1936. It's because they had like they're on parachutes and stuff, and it's like
there's parachutes in a commercial aircraft. That's just weird.
Yeah, like what you had to do to be able to do that. They so happened to stumble upon landing the rocket ship of Zarkov, and Zarkov needs the help, the assistance immediately. In the serial, he actually clarifies he had an assistant with him, but he fled, so he needs their help.
That happens in the 1980 movie as well. He does pull a gun on them and force them to get into the ship. Because he needs some extra people to help him fly it.
Yeah, he's just like, well, okay, we're going to space. Well, yeah, they're going to space. There is like one little line where he's like Zarkov's models. He talks about his models that he did to test, and he's like, Flash is like, did they come back? And he's like, they weren't supposed to. What do you mean come back?
Yeah, this has not been tested.
Yeah, it's
please join me.
Every test he's done has been a failure, I guess.
I'm sure it'll work. Everybody get in. Yay.
Yay. So, one thing during this flight is that the movie cuts Dale nearly suffocating because they forgot to pump in air. I will be detailing like most everything they cut from the movie, which is interesting because that's 3 hours of content. So, just explaining like what made this, more inferior as we go along. So, they do like drop that there's like a counter magnet that they use to counteract the planet's magnetism, I guess, to be able to like slow down their landing. Which reminded me of, like, I need to look up the science of Star Wars speeder bikes. And it's also interesting because the Earth has, like, a magnetic, the pictures
repulsors.
of
they're called
going
they're called
around
repulsors.
The top and into the bottom. And there's, like, two of them. Like, the magnetic field of the Earth. It's sort of like that. But, like, magnetism is electricity. Gravity.
Yeah, it goes like this.
All of them are very related to each other.
Right.
So, like, counteracting gravity by magnetism.
Strong forces,
by,
nuclear
like,
forces,
and the
weak
electricity.
forces,
electricity is also heat, and heat is also the core of a planet. My guess is a lot of you have already done college or something, so, for the youngins, I guess, who don't know all that's related. What?
Right.
Definitely a high schooler watching Flash Gordon and going, what is this? I'm gonna go back to watching Young Sheldon or something, although I feel like that's a female pick. Anyways, the model lands gently in the middle of an iguana-fested gorge. I also learned the word coal, which is like the between mountains, which this could also be, but I don't really know how to describe it. There's mountains around them, so it could be a coal, but I might call it a gorge as well, alternatively. So, another thing they used to do, use actual lizards for the dinosaurs and monsters, the lizard-like monsters in these movies, and have them fight.
Let them fight.
Which, it's not great, not recommended to do, but, it's interesting and, like, fascinating and creative. It's creative. I will say it's creative.
but it's also cruelty.
It is cruelty.
They glue bits to these creatures and they
force them to bite each other. And although I think one of like the biggest movements that it does is definitely like shaking them on a rod because they have to have the both of them connected to each other, like flip around and fall. I guess. So I guess they did that with a string. So another rocket ship, blasts the iguanas, and they resolve to meet this rocket ship because it is a sign of life. But it turns out that they're a bunch of knights, I guess. The funny thing is that a lot of them are doing, like, they're wearing, like, knight armor or, like, stuff that they probably reused from, like...
medieval looking, yeah.
Medieval looking. Which reminded me of, in Star Trek, the original series, which is very similar to this in the sense of, like, the scope of the effects that they did and, like, sort of the feel with the fighting and stuff. Not everyone thinks that Star Wars, the original series, is a good start. I believe this is what Flash Gordon it feels like a good start to something, definitely. And that's sort of like the same sentiment I have with Star Trek, the original series, is with Flash Gordon. Anyway, like the Klingons, aren't they literally just like men in chainmail? Like chainmail shirts, sort of looking thing?
Kind of.
It's
just a fabric. They use this kind of this gold crosshatch fabric. So not
then,
real. Not if
it
has as long as it looks armor-like, you're good to go. And wearing shorty shorts as well.
Yeah, as I said, I don't think they like wear pants really at all. So it's just boxers.
This movie did not skip leg day.
Yeah, I will say that. So they get arrested.
That's my only good joke for this whole podcast. So savor it.
Really? Then I guess all the other jokes are gonna be worse.
Oh.
Yikes. Anyway.
Yeah.
So they arrest him. They're gonna take him to Emperor Ming, from whose fourth I'm gonna call him just Ming out of
just Ming.
Briefness.
The Merciless. He has an epithet.
Who would be
he is called the
villain
Merciless
in the 80s movie, at least I know. And I think there was also a serial that was literally called Ming Strikes Back, which guess what
That's one of the episodes,
second Star Wars episode movie would be called.
Okay, you're more correct than you know. The titles of the movies were actually patterned after these old serials: Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, Empire
Phantom
Strikes
Menace.
Back.
Just drop the word menace.
Yes. People were like, why is this called the Phantom Menace? That seems like it's a pulpy serial title. George Lucas knows what he wants to do. By the way, one of the clone troopers that is called Commander Cody. That's based off of Commando Cody, which is actually the main character of Commando Cody, Sky Marshal of the Universe. His appearance is what the character of the Rocketeer from Disney's The Rocketeer was based off of. Commando Cody has a rocket pack and flies around a lot in Revenge of the Sith, which shows
or for an earlier
troopers.
made character, you could definitely say the Fett's Boba Fett with that jetpack.
Oh yeah, Boba Fett is actually very much so based off of Commando Cody,
which is probably what they got Commando Cody, is a clone and the off of the Fetts. So I feel like that jetpack idea also ties into that.
It's connected.
So yeah, they get arrested by them to go get the Emperor Ming. Emperor
Ming,
King,
the Merciless.
In the serial, Flash Gordon straight up throws one of them, which would explain the urgent reaction of Zarkov immediately at them being arrested, which is hold on, we need to be taken by then.
Part of the mythology behind Flash Gordon is that Ming has been moving things around with the different races and groups, so they're fighting each other and not able to provide a united front against Ming. And so part of what's done in the comic strip and done in the serials and in the 1980 movie
and
is
in
that
most
Flash
series
brings
introduce
groups
multiple
together.
different villains that distract from the main villain.
Yeah,
Batman fights Joker, but he also has to fight Bane. I was about to say that to many people, American people, China was very alien because it's the Silk Road, everything that Marco Polo said about it.
The Yellow Peril thing that happened a lot with these movies back in the day.
Not that, especially that they were scared. Well, that's part of
Charlie
the,
Chan.
That's part. No, that's part of that. But they're alien to the people, and that might provide some fear. But that's besides the point. They're aliens, so that's probably why we have this Chinese-based Emperor Ming character. The Emperor Ming does not plan to destroy the Earth by colliding with it, with their planet, but by an alternative. Zarkov drops to him that he should conquer it instead of destroying it. And he's like, yes, I should do that, which is biggest mistake of your life, Zarkov.
Zarkov has a plan. He's crafty.
Yeah, the Emperor Ming also finds Dale beautiful because she is the only woman in the main cast and is a blondie. So
that's not her real hair color. She was asked to go blonde because of a famous actress known as Jean Harlow. Jean Harlow played the girlfriend of James Cagney in The Public Enemy. You remember that?
Yeah, that's because everyone loved blondes back then.
Buster Crabbe the actor who plays Flash Gordon, he went blonde too, and he didn't like it. He was very embarrassed by it, so he always used to wear a hat.
But he looks good though. He looks freaking good.
He thought guys would whistle at him.
I guess based on my reaction just then, I was technically whistling as well. So Flash Gordon retorts to him going, "Oh, you're so beautiful," which I think that like he says a line before this in the serial, which of course like flows that out a bit more because he's like, "Your hair, your eyes are," and then the line that makes it in the movie is, "You're so beautiful." So he retorts, he's like, "I'm gonna go tackle him." So they resort to send him into the arena, of which there was some swordplay in the serial, but that was cut for time. There he fights 3 men in underwear, of which thankfully the extended shots of them and like him grabbing them and chucking them repeatedly in this scene, doing more of that, were cut.
It's a Texas Tornado wrestling match. And in fact, that's actually closer than you might think. Some of the guys who played these characters were actually wrestlers and circus strongmen or whatever. Put fangs in their mouth.
Yeah, the serial actually has them like zoom up on them, and you get to see like how they just look like guys with like horns on their head added, and they're just in underwear. They're in boxers.
It's wrestling without a ring. It's just a bunch of guys. But
yeah, they're literally in boxers,
fighting.
And he's here like picking them up and throwing them repeatedly,
judo throw.
He doesn't chop at all. He just throws. He just grapples and throws.
Yeah,
that's his epic plan. Grab and chuck.
Yeah.
Grab and chuck. How much things can Flash Gordon grab and chuck if Flash Gordon could grab and chuck men?
How many grabs could Buster Crab grab if
Buster Crab could grab
crabby men?
All right. So is Princess Aura, who is the daughter of Emperor Ming, who from henceforth I will be just calling Aura, takes pity on him and shoots the guard with the laser gun that he dropped.
She thinks he's hot. Come on. She takes pity on him, but she thinks he's hot.
Yeah, I guess. Thus beginning Chapter 2 of the serial. I will note every time the serial ends with what is a cliffhanger. Oh, sorry. The cliffhanger here is that they fall into a pit because the guard they shoot had his hand on the lever. So they fall in. But fortunately, there's a net, as we see in Chapter 3. 2, sorry.
There is an arena scene in Attack of the Clones.
No inspiration.
Toward the end. Oh, no, of course not. Lucas didn't get any inspiration. Also, do you remember Return of the Jedi, where Luke is standing right over a trap door, and Jabba the Hutt hits the button, and he falls down there and fights a Rancor. If you watch Star
speaking
Wars...
Speaking of which, if the guy was more like Emperor Chang from Ninjago... I will discuss why that's relevant later.
Yes.
No. He's not too much of a stereotype. I just think of him as a fun character. He's not really a stereotype at all. He's just got the style.
Okay.
Because Ninjago is Japan, and so they're going with the nearest country next to that. Anyways, I'll discuss later on. That's a bit more relevant of a statement. But yeah,
so they fall down. They fall down the hole.
They end up above the Dragon of Death, as it's called, more like the 3 Lizards of Death, because it's actually 3 lizards. I don't know why they call it the Dragon. It's 3 lizards.
There's a dragon guy with like crab claws or whatever down
later,
there. Do you know who he's played by? Glenn Strange.
Glenn Strange.
AKA
I was about to say,
Mr.
like,
House of Frankenstein.
ask if it was a Crash
himself.
that we talked about earlier. Crash Corrigan, was it?
Crash Corrigan plays the Orangopoid.
We'll see that later, yeah. But I wonder if he played that again. He's the stunt actor for a lot of the apes that we have in these movies. So, fortunately, there's a secret way out into the cave system, which they sneak around. Aura does, like, smile at him and go, like, do you worry a lot about Dale or something? Before that, Flash asks about the others, and Aura says they're likely prisoners. So that sets that up. But it's not present in the movie. I will say there's a lot of things that set up other things that happen that aren't present in the movie, which makes the movie seem like not only at a fast pace, but nothing makes sense. And things make a little more sense in the serial.
Well, they give it a little time.
That's the main
breathe,
improvement.
This movie,
or
if you
deprovement.
Watch,
sorry,
if
that
you,
this movie makes.
If that's a way to put it.
It's inferior because of this second point as well.
Rocketship, though, doesn't give you a lot of time to think. If you think, like, why is this happening? No. Boom, next thing. Boom, next thing. It's very fast-paced.
Yeah, I will say the beginning and the ending of the serial are definitely the most suddenest things. And that also stays true for this movie. They're really sudden. It's like, well, we're going to space now. In the serial, we get additional scenes where the Zarkov is inspecting the Emperor's Strixhaven machines, and Ming intends to ally with him to destroy the universe. So that's why he's working.
From 1936's The Invisible Ray, starring Boris Karloff. That's where a lot of that came from.
They also set up that Dale is to become his wife by way of the dehumanizer, which involves hypnosis. They show an abbreviated version of this subplot in the movie, to where it's just like, oh, she's gonna hypnosis now, which is set up more in the serial. There's a couple mind control parts in this, and mind control is easy to kind of show. You just kind of do a light over somebody's head, they just go and look out and stare off and do whatever. They have a blinky machine.
It's a draft of forgetfulness or some kind of something, whatever.
Yeah, that's later on. Aura leads Flash to the rocket ship and locks him in there, betraying him because you're never gonna see Dale again because jealousy. Back in the movie, the Lion Men are invading, and Flash goes to blow them up alongside the Emperor's fleet because he happens to be in a rocket ship.
They don't look like Lion Men. They look like dudes
Klingons
with some really insane beards.
Yes, they do. They do look more
but
like
from
Gimli.
the comic book, from the comic book though, they do actually look more like lion-like.
I guess that's where the animated Star Trek series added like more different aliens that actually looked alien, like sort of along that lines. As
there were
compared
some
to the
cat
original
people,
series, where
in
they
the
didn't have
Star
that
Trek
in live
series.
action.
In the cartoon versions of Flash Gordon that came out later after this, the Lion Man actually looks like a lion man. But with this, it just looks like, oh, they're lion men. No, just trust me. That the beard is because it's.
But anyway, they do like sort of resume when he locks him in the rocket ship from what I was talking about with the adding the dehumanizer stuff that was in the serial. So Flash goes to blow them up. The end of this is going down with Prince Thun, Prince of the Lion Men. They both go down, but he spares him. They resolve to invade the castle by way of the only way to defeat Ming is surprise. So they have an ally ship, which is very nice. So now we get as I said, Dale is going to marry Ming under way of hypnosis. But they're going to approve it under the god Tao. I think a lot of that is cut out for the serial, so that doesn't make like too much sense in the movie. But they're approving it under the god Tao, which is the alien tree thing. They don't have like the shot from the opening crawl credits from the serial and this, where they're dancing. They don't have that shot. They just have a shot. Flash and Thun are gonna break in and stop it. But yeah, the alien worshippers basically do a spin around and fall down, which they do show in the movie, but they don't show the shot from the opening of the movie. Flash and Thun are gonna stop the ceremony. They have to go through this tunnel in the serial. They have to go through a tunnel by finding
terror. Is it called the Tunnel of Terror?
Yes, or no? This is in the movie as well. They fight this monster guy in a costume that I described earlier. He looks sort of like I don't know, like a Metroid enemy. That ends chapter 2 because they're like, oh no, he's gotten grabbed. Third episode, Thun has a rifle, so he shoots it, and they break in from behind the statue and grab Dale in the middle of the ceremony. Aura claims Flash for her own, but in the serial, they set up that they're going to deliver them to the Sharkmen. Aura basically, when they go away, he's like, I'm going to pursue him, but don't kill him. I want him alive. This next part, she also talks about the Sharkmen in the serial. Why? Because there's an entire next part of the third episode, most of chapter 3, and the entirety of episode 4, chapter 4.
There's two episodes that go into the Undersea Kingdom.
They cut this entire arc where they go into an undersea kingdom of Sharkmen. By way of a submarine, which you do see in the opening, that you don't see any submarine in the actual movie version. that we talked
Right.
about here. There's an octopus and a shark that kill each other. They're both. It's a real octopus. I noted it's a la Phantom Menace, and they're in an underwater city. They meet the Shark King. They have a bunch of fights down in a pool.
The Gungans, the underwater Gungan people. Oh, that's. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite similar in a ways. Chapter 4, also the Earth scientists react to strange signals from Mongo that stopped so suddenly and mysteriously, is the quote. Zarkov's betrayal of Ming by signaling to the people that they exist. They escape from the underwater city by destroying the air and pressure regulator, flooding the underwater kingdom, thus beginning Chapter 5, where they raise the city to the surface because it's being held underwater by magic metal, I guess? Magnetism. Whatever. And Flash and Crow...
They use something similar with the Sky City, right? They talk about these beams, these light beams that keep it...
yes.
Whatever makes it cool. They're like, this underwater city has a special metal that makes it do a thing. Cool. Moving on.
But I will
the
say...
Sky City has beams.
Yeah, they resolve to go back to
float.
the Linemen Kingdom, but this is where we begin the movie back, when Prince Barad, who introduces himself as the real ruler of Mongo, introduces himself to ally with Zarkov, because he being the great scientist he is useful to him.
He's an Arborean.
I will say this Underwater Kingdom arc... It cuts out a lot of the cool special effects, the submarine, the octopus, the various underwater fights, and the special effect for this underwater city, which is just beautiful. And
for sake
rising,
of brevity
getting
and
destroyed
speed.
In the process of rising, or like all these things, did not make it in. I understand that it doesn't have any recurring characters because Prince Baron would be a recurring character after this.
And in the next serial, he's big in the next serial too. So
yeah. But yeah, it's not a reoccurring character, so I understand them cutting it. But I'm like, yeah, it got some cool special effects. So I'm like,
one thing. Here's
shame.
Star Wars.
It's a shame.
I got another Star Wars connection for you. You know how they have these different areas, like, they don't show it as much in this one, but they do in the second one. Is the Arborea area, and it's all forest like, right? So that reminds me of like Indoor. You know what I mean? And then
Maybe.
You've got an underwater city. You mentioned like the Gungan underwater thing. Plus, we got in the Clone Wars.
That's what the Gungan King does.
Yeah. Boss Nass, right?
Boss Nass.
The Lion Men, though, could that be an inspiration later for the Wookiees?
No, I don't think so.
I don't know. You got a blonde main character. You have a scientist. Wizard character.
No,
you got a furry dude. You got a furry dude.
No.
You got a princess, right?
Yes,
and you got
possibly.
Baron could be Han Solo.
No.
I don't think so. I'm not the only one who saw the connections. I've read some stuff where somebody's laid it all out, and it made perfect sense to me.
Stop being the guy from The Incredibles. It's worthless. In my opinion, that is. Every to each his own.
Coincidence? I
think not. This next is the Hawkmen arc, where they walk out of a cave, only to encounter Hawkmen. Are here. They fly around. Poppies. Just have to drop that one, Wizard of Oz. They do have like a squabble with the Hawkmen. Thun gets captured in the process while he sent away the girls. He was going with the girls away, and then he gets captured, and then they run away. I don't think that makes it in the movie. While Flash Gordon meets up with Zarkov and Baron, who have allied, and they're like, yo, I've allied with him. Let's go up in Baron's rocket ship to the Hawkman Palace in the sky. King Volton is the name of the king there. And Thun is being kept in the atomic furnace to work there, while Dale is under a sleep machine when they capture her. The movie cuts the rocket's approach. There's them noticing it on a lookout dock, which is pretty cool. I like these. I feel like the shots in the serial that they have. They feature it more in the serial, and they feature this one shot a little bit in the actual movie. But
right
where they imply a sense of height. I love those. Where your imagination draws out this huge bottomless going down, the chutes, the trash chutes from Wall-E, those general trash areas actually also it's this big area. Your imagination like expands it into it's just this immersive world. I really love. This like especially what they did in like Bespin, with the Cloud City. Also sort of has connections to this a little bit. So yeah, basically they're like in Spartan, sort of looking clothes there, as well as with added wings. That's what they look like. King Vultan and such. He's this big rotund man who like is constantly laughing.
He's a Viking-looking dude. Also, he is a big character in the 1980 remake. Is played by famous Shakespearean actor
most
Brian
all the characters.
Blessed.
Most all the characters in this movie would
Gordon's
be
alive.
Flash Gordon characters.
Yeah.
So this is the basis for Flash Gordon. So that's the way we cover this thing, man. So
right,
King Vultan, she's like Flash, and King Vultan is like a Flash, eh? I'll provide you with a Flash. And he turned because the machine is flashing, I guess. And he goes,
right.
ha 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 ha.
Not because of his bare legs.
Like, I think that's the way he laughs. So yeah, the Hawkmen hit the rocket with a spotlight, like a laser beam thing.
A couple scene during a bombing scene or whatever, an attack, they actually filmed it at night so that they didn't have to show a sky. They just showed like this empty, vast void.
Yeah, your
Space-like
imagination
void.
just can do wonders for this thing. And that's one of the reasons that I love this, for some of those imagination moments. Yeah,
Saves
in
money.
in case you didn't know, I really like this
could save
one.
lots of cash, right? That's
in case you didn't know, I really like this one. I really like this one. I mean, I'll discuss which version of this I like more. Well, obviously, the serial being the purest version is definitely like one of the best versions if you can stomach 4 hours. Excuse me, 4 hours of content to binge. But
Right.
If you've only got like 1 hour in a lunch break, then I guess this would suffice this version. A complete version in its own right, as I said before. Anyway, in the serial, he also like releases this striped bear, which there's voiceover here that I noticed because it was in a deeper voice. He's
It's
like,
Baloo.
yeah, he says, "Don't like me, my go-go girl? How about my friend Urso?" And I was like, what is that line? What is a go-go girl?
What?
That's what he says. Go-go girl. Or something along the lines.
Don't like me, my little go-go bird. Perhaps you will like my friend Urso.
And I'm like, what is that? What is a go-go girl?
Sometimes the subtitles are funky, so I have to kind of question it.
Yeah,
But
no, that is what he says.
Urso is just another word for bear. Urso,
Yeah. This does, I think this is the chapter 5 cliffhanger, is the ship going down when they shoot with the laser beam. Beginning of chapter 6. Fortunately, the ray is keeping the city stay the falling ship. But I was like, wouldn't it be gravely damaged still if because it exploded while going down? That's the one thing in a lot of movies. It exploded as it was going down.
The laser was
How'd
like
they
cooking it from the inside, like a baked potato in a aluminum foil.
Yeah, maybe.
Which you shouldn't put in a microwave, by the way.
They all arrive there. Aura says to King Vultan that my father is... wait till my father sees this. Wait till my father hears about this, Draco Malfoy. But he's like, I'm gonna still keep you around for obvious uses. You've got a scientist and a bunch of people who can work in your atom furnace. Meanwhile, Emperor Ming is reported to see an injured Hawkman. They found an injured Hawkman in the battle earlier, and he told of his daughter's whereabouts, so he's going there. About this time is when Zarkov is, King Vultan is like, you're a scientist, you make me a alternative, because the atom furnaces, if they go down with the radium that is powering them, then our Sky City gets destroyed, so we need an alternative source. So, Thun, as we remember, is in the furnace. Flash and Baron find Thun in the furnace. Though in the serial, Aura confronts Dale to dump Flash so that she can save Flash, marry him, and make him a king. Here, they have this whole subplot where they convince, she's like, oh, King Vultan, I like you instead. They do during this grand party thing.
Right.
There is one line that he also says in deeper voiced VO where he says, don't like the entertainment? That they add. But yeah, there's entertainment, and she's like, no, I love you. not Flash, so that as part of this plan to make him give up Flash for caring about her, I guess, and then Aura can go marry Flash and make him a king. But this whole subplot is cut from the serial. Back to the movie, Flash is shirtless and glistening in the furnace, doing work, and he decides to make a jump for it, making a mass mutiny. But it fails.
Ladies, you're welcome.
Yeah. The serial does have, like, at this section, the girls and King Vultan come in during this. Dale faints for, like, the third time. The end of Chapter 6, which doesn't make it in the movie, is Flash Gordon gets brought to be electrocuted in front of Dale, and she faints because of this. This also reveals that she likes Flash after all by her fainting every time that they put him in danger, I guess, by him either fighting or being electrocuted. I find that interesting that they cut that whole thing. I guess because that's like proving that she likes him.
Of course she does.
Yeah, I guess that's a given in the movie, but like it's more of like a strengthened thing over time. It's still there. But
does he really get electrocuted, or is it a plot, or is it a trick?
And he's like on this whole like thing, and that and he's bare chested, and they lower him onto electrocutor. Beginning of Chapter 7, they bring him to the electrostimulator to re-stimulate him, while Zarkov found a way to make a metal ball float. We do see this in the movie. King Vultan is making shadow puppets for an unamused Dale. That doesn't make it in the movie, but he's here like, I'm gonna show you real entertainment, and then he does a shadow dog, and she's like, come on. He's like, what? I invented this all by myself.
Look, it's a Hawkman. Look.
Yeah.
Dive!
Yeah, he just laughs while making the shapes, really, but it's just, I guess, extraneous. Aura lies to Flash Gordon that Dale doesn't like him, but he doesn't buy it, of course. Her plan was to instead have him be like, oh, she doesn't care about you, marry me instead. But he doesn't buy it. He's like, you guys have been squabbling a lot over me. Of course, I don't buy what you're saying. She nearly blowtorches his eyes. I don't think that makes it in the movie. That in the serial, she just straight up nearly blowtorches his eyes before crumbling out of liking him, I guess. But in the movie, the guards come in and he goes to save Dale. So yeah, we're back in the movie from some of the side plot that happened in the serial. Everyone is cuffed to a zap machine, which is interesting that the second zap machine makes it in, the first zap machine doesn't. Zarkov is going to break them out, however, by ways of a shovel. Ming also comes on in red carpet to punish Vultan for taking Princess Aura. The Atom Furnace gets destroyed, ending Chapter 7. An interesting thing is about this time in between when a big exploding happens and when they actually destroy it with the shovel and then it tilts, is when Flash is recaptured and nearly killed by firing squad. I'm not joking with you. It's a little out of pocket.
That happens a lot.
It's I guess they had to go, we have to have a cliffhanger, so
cliffhanger, yeah. That
ends Chapter 7 instead of cutting straight past that, like the movie did. Yeah, Zarkov offers to save the city because the city is tilted. To save the city with his alternative ball lifting method. Because I said earlier, I think it's funny that he's just lifting this ball and it looks like it's lifted with air, and he's like, "Oh, my magical method, air." Just blow a big amount of air. Anyway, so this measure is a success, but Emperor Ming is like, "No, nothing is a success because I'm calling a tournament of death." And speaking of tournaments, Chen from Ninjago is part of the tournament arc season of Ninjago. In the serial, there's two parts to this scene. The first part is cut in the movie. This is where he has he's fencing with Baron in disguise. Baron apparently wanted to die, I guess, is his motivation. Because Aura doesn't love him. He loves Aura, but I guess that isn't reciprocated because she's vying for his love instead. I don't know.
Eventually, he becomes like a second. It's almost like he's second choice. He's like,
yeah, and
thanks.
he's like, I wanted to die at your hand in battle here because
He's like,
of all
I
this.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
I like being second fiddle.
Second half is where actually in the movie. He fights a gorilla, a guy in a gorilla costume, Crash.
Orangopoid.
Crash Corrigan.
Played by Crash
Orangopoid.
Corrigan.
The serial does have close-ups of the Orangopoid, which look great. They look great. I will tell you, if you watch a serial, they look pretty great. I liked that one. Also, this ends chapter 8 by this happening.
Right.
But at the beginning of chapter 9, the second high priest, who's this dude with the particular nose, and he's here in this. He has a bishop hat looking thing. Gives Aura the secret of the Orangopoid, which is a white spot under the neck, of which Aura gives Flash a spear and he kills it. And they're like, oh, he won against the impossible Orangopoid.
Yeah, they do kind of talk about the white spot in the serial more than they do in the movie version, because the movie version, she's like, his weakness, javelin to the face.
Yeah, she just walks up every time there's a fight in the movie, versus in here she has more like, watching, and then she goes like, oh, into the fray. So Ming is like, yeah, okay, you won. Promise your freedom, hands in marriage in 3 days. Thun leaves then, because he's like, all right, leave. Aura oversees that Dale loves Flash, but the second high priest, secretly under orders to get rid of Flash by Emperor Ming, gives her the draught of sleep and forgetfulness, so that he will imprint on her when he wakes. But this, I was like, this is probably gonna kill Flash instead, considering he's like, under Emperor's orders. Apparently that was not true. In the serial, there's a fire monster guarding the passage to the secret palace of Teo, where they would be going. When she grabs them, they're going to be going through the palace of Teo, I guess. But he says it's midnight and the gong will not be rung. Also, the movie cuts Flash being drugged, the scene of him actually being drugged, as well as Zarkov continuing to contact Earth, the crew discovering the dastardly plot that this is, the second High Priest's betrayal of Aura by ringing the gong in the passage to the Teo's palace, which is a Chapter 9 cliffhanger, because, oh no, there's the monsters out. Though Zarkov defeats the monster with a simple grenade. This entire thing is cut.
Flash loses his memory of Dale.
Yes, he does, but they just don't show that in the movie. They just sweep by it. I think they literally go to her going to Emperor Ming going, he won't remember a thing. Flash Gordon comes in. He doesn't remember anything. Emperor Ming gives Flash a choice of bride, but he can't choose among strangers. King Voltan is like, wait, you use your draft of forgetfulness. That's outrageous. He gets imprisoned because of this. Though I don't know how much of that makes that in the movie. Baron sweeps in to summon Flash to Zarkov after the both of them tried to have Flash remember them, the both of the ladies. This results in a fight due to Aura's deception, because she's like, Baron is an enemy. And he goes, oh, you're an enemy. I believe you. But Zarkov comes in from behind and they knock him out. So they use magic rays to restore his memories. In the serial, Earth manages to connect to Mongo and now knows that Zaroff made it, but the two-way connection isn't possible. Back to the movie. Ming sends guards to kill Flash against Aura's wishes, but Zaroff has an invisibility machine to foil this plot, which ends Chapter 10.
An invisible ray, maybe?
Maybe. Well, it's a wall.
Yeah.
He has to lean against in order to turn invisible. In the serial, Zarkov can make... after this, Zarkov makes him uninvisible, but he says he can't do it for long, and if the machine is broken, he stays invisible. In the movie, he just goes, oh, I'm invisible. What strength? And then leaves. But in the serial, they actually explain that they can bring him back. Now with my restored memories and invisible powers, I can go bamboozle the guards and Emperor Ming, which is basically him just waltzing in and choking him.
Right. He sneaks past all these guys and just runs up the stairs really fast, and he's just immediately choking him out. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, shoot. Did I talk about earlier during... right before the Sharkman arc is when they, like, escape from the ceremony, and then the hypnotized Dale starts to walk up the stairs. And I was like, this is a Silent Hill moment. I keep mentioning games. But it's a Silent Hill moment. Because in the fourth one, there's a section where you have this, like, constantly under, like, corruption woman character who you have to keep alive if you want to have a good ending, which is ridiculously hard. And there's, like, long stairwells in there that she's just, like, God, yes. And you have to, like, protect her from doing that by various things, like staying with her. No one knows, like, the exact way to keep her, which is why it's really difficult. And then especially at the end, she's, like, just walking toward this pool. And that's, like, what the corruption level determines if she makes it to the pool. Like, you have to fight during that to keep it time. But anyway, that is to say that reminded me of that. So Ar's gonna spy in on Zarkov's lab. Okay, first of all, in the serial, Flash lifts food on the tray of the shock of a guard as they're in the prison. King Volton is in prison, right? He goes and saves him, and they do like an Invisible Man sort of thing. Yeah, the subplot is entirely cut. Also, Zarkov gets touched in Earth for the first time in the movie, I think, is here. And Earth knows that Flash and Dale are on Mongo. But yeah, Aura and a guard are listening in onto them talking about the invisible machine. If it's destroyed, then that will be bad. There's this, like, ladder. As I said, this is one of the shots that implies height because, the serial features this more, actually. But, there's, like, this in-between walls thing with a big ladder, and I'm like, the height. Imagine how long that is. Imagine it's, like, a Metal Gear Solid ladder. I don't think you can imagine that.
Yeah.
A really long ladder near the end of the game. Anyway.
Right.
Baron and Dale did notice the device, the listening device, conspicuously hanging there, and Baron resolves to hide her in the catacombs underneath the palace. And then Aura overheard them overhearing. She decides to send an attendant known as the Sacred Tigran, commander of the Tiger, into the caves. She was there when Flash had no memories, but that was just in the serial, so they're just like, she's there, okay? She also alerts Emperor Ming in the serial as well. That doesn't make it a movie. The guards come in and they fight, but Flash's invisibility wears off during the fight. Meanwhile, the Tiger finds Dale, which ends Chapter 11. Fortunately, Flash Gordon comes to the rescue in the catacombs instead of her being tackled on screen in the cliffhanger, which is interesting. Like, the Divergent is like it's implied she dies in the end. But then the next chapter, she didn't die. Okay. Some of these cliffhangers are really, 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 really weird.
Don't we get a face turn from Aura where she kind of realizes the error of her ways?
Oh, yeah. Baron basically is like, you have to win his heart with friendship and not jealousy, which makes Aura decide to help them by interceding with Ming. In the serial, Ming orders the destruction of the invisibility machine. Meanwhile, they force the king at Blade Point to give them freedom. I think, this part got cut a lot. Meanwhile, they force the king at Blade Point to give them freedom. They tell Earth that they're going to return, and the professors say great news, but they lose connection. Oh, no, that part's in the movie. Yeah, basically, at the end of this part, there should be, like, a big majority of an episode is cut. Like, the majority of Chapter 11, or the majority of Chapter 10, or the majority of Chapter 12. I think it's 10 and 11, but I think that's the vibe from this that you should be getting.
Yeah.
Is that later on they just cut an entire part of this, or 2 episodes. Which ones, I don't remember. This is, like, where the movie joins up with the serial for the last time. And they resolve to deal with Ming first, and discuss leaving in Baron's rocket in the Sky City's lab. I do think they cut that part in the movie. This is a good third act start section, so shame they cut it. The palace goes into red alert, but they're going to the ship off in the turret house, but they get fired off by Baron's ship, because, oh no, Baron's been captured, and they're like, oh no, he's shooting down at us. I think that's in the movie, but it's not him, because he got captured. Ending Chapter 12. Fortunately, there's a trapdoor in the turret house by Chapter 13, the last chapter, to escape through before it collapses, making Ming and Baron think that they're dead. So they recoup in the lab and treat Volton's grave wounds because he got crushed by the house.
Aww.
Ming and the guards try and break in, but it's electrified. That's not in the movie, I'm sure. yeah, I think from here is where it all matches in timeline. Like, a lot of that stuff was cut. This should all match. The linemen's gyroships are coming to aid. Yeah, no. Yeah, all the stuff before that got cut. With,
the little flying Beyblades that they have? Yeah.
Yeah, the linemen's gyroships are coming to aid. This is, like, right after, the invisibility stuff. They just shoot.
It's all coming to a head. They got the big battle sequences. They're like the director's like, gotta wrap this thing up.
But the crew gets captured and the gyroships get attacked. Emperor Ming is like, see what your lion men aids are now that they're being destroyed, but they're not actually. They're winning. The lion men invade the palace. But Ming flees in the scuffle and chase begins. He grandly enters the palace of Tao, from which no man returns, which is how this villain ends, is him willingly going into the fires and the flames, I guess. What did you think of this?
I thought it was kind of a you didn't see him die, so if they want to bring him back in the next one, they can.
It was a confusing action because
Sir not dying on screen means you can come back. You know, it's a way to.
I guess there are a lot of knights in this movie, very like Monty Python-esque. Because the Holy Grail wasn't like that. The song I was reading earlier, like the Flash by Queen, talks about him searching for a golden grail or something.
Yeah, I don't know where in the series that even.
It's all connected.
Because of Monty Python. Because of Monty Python, that would not come out
all the interactive and non-interactive
later.
media references in this episode connect to each other.
Oh, there's a lot more references that I'm going to bring in.
Yeah, anyway, this plot, it's crazy. All this stuff is crazy, man. Princess Aura takes over as queen. Flash and Co resolve to leave because they're like, he's dead. Aura's like, oh, don't leave. We could stay here forever. But he's like, no, we have to go. The plot says so. The professors, they contact the professors, and it'll be risky because the planet is farther now than it was. But Zarkov says they will keep in touch throughout the journey. Star Wars? Maybe. Use the Force, Anakin? Maybe.
But the worm tongue dude, helper, high priest of Ming, is going to have a revenge.
Yeah. He puts a bomb in the ship with this little scheming
time
grin.
bomb.
Time bomb.
Time bomb.
Time bomb. Flash.
Time bomb. Flash. Time bomb. Yeah.
Time bomb. Flash. Time bomb.
I'm gonna have to put that put that clip over here because that's just loony. Of course, it's one last little moment of stress and drama before they wrap up the whole episode. Because we got to find the time bomb, and they throw it out. And it's very easily dealt with. And then they head back to Earth. And,
they head back to Earth. There's a romantic shot of them going like,
Oh, where Zarkov is like, hey, what are you guys doing?
And they're just here staring at each other nose to nose.
And he's like...
in order to return, they need all the generators turned off to less counteract the rocket. Magnetism force.
Yeah, turn all the electricity on planet Earth off, please. I was like,
okay, and it's in the newspapers too. They're like, they're returning, and I'm like, okay, are they?
How could we do that? They
turned off
like
all the electricity on planet Earth, all the magnetism.
Did they also turn off all the electricity in the life support? The hospitals, power in the hospitals.
I don't know, but they also turned off the movie because this is where the movie ends. They don't even land in the movie; they just kiss.
No, they actually land at the very beginning of the next serial, so it just carries right on.
Okay. Thank
He's like,
you.
Oh,
for that.
I don't care. He's like, oh, I don't care.
No, thank you. Thank you. I was like.
I had to know whether they landed or not. I have to see it.
But they didn't do like a tune in next time for the sequel to Flash Gordon. They didn't do that.
No, they didn't know it was going to be made, and then they did.
But yeah, the beginning of the movie is like, oh, the planet's coming down. Oh no, suddenly. And then, we just happen to be here. Let's fly off to save it. And then the end of the movie is, the Emperor's dead. His kingdom is resolved. Everything is resolved now. Let's go down.
Yeah, at the end of the 1980 movie, there's actually Ming's ring. He has this ring that shoots a beam of laser or whatever.
The Lord of the Mings.
The Lord of the Mings. No, the ring is sitting down there. He starts having his laugh, echoing, ha 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 ha. And it says the end ?
So, in recap for this whole long serial, the basics is they are on a journey to go onto a planet, and this includes various ventures with Hawkmen, Sharkmen, and Lionmen, as well as a amnesia arc where they have them temporarily lose memory, and that's a gimmick. And then next they have them become invisible, which is another gimmick.
Yeah, it's also a gimmick, right? It's also very cheap. You just have people like throw themselves to the ground.
Yeah,
you know,
okay. Now to dive into my feelings on this was that this latter section is not as good as the first couple sections. I think they should have cut back on the latter sections and in the movie in favor of the earlier sections, such as having the Sharkmen arc appear in the movie.
Yeah.
I thought it was more interesting to have the various alien kingdoms rather than the latter half, which is just like they're constantly going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth in conflict, not being able to resolve themselves until the very last chapter where they just have to like squeeze the balloon shut. I was like, the movie could have done well with a 90-minute cut instead of a 60-minute cut, which we have here, where it's just like absolutely zappy. It's like an inferior cut. They glaze by a lot of things, and it's like, could have done well with just 30 more minutes added. That would have been great. And I was just like, oh, well, that didn't happen. Until I discovered Spaceship to the Unknown is a 1966 movie, which is another cut of this movie, but it's 97 minutes long. And funnily enough, I did find it on Amazon Prime.
Did you notice that that the poster or image for that movie has Flash's face looking this way, kind of illustrated?
Yes.
That poster was actually created much later after this movie was made. That movie was made, and it actually won an award. It's an advertising award called a Clio.
I did not know there were awards for that.
It's very cool looking, I will admit.
Spaceship to the Unknown is a 97-minute cut of the movie, and it adds in a ton of the explainer lines back in, where I was like, the less is explained, it makes it seem more like things are just happening for no reason, which is confusing. Most of all to a new viewer who is just like, well, this is all happening, and
do you think
decreases their opinion.
Is it superior to Rocketship, you think?
Yes.
It seems like you're thinking that.
A 90-minute cut is exactly what they
describing.
Needed, and I'll discuss my feelings on it. That's what I'm doing. It also adds
that's pretty short for a modern movie. A modern movie that edges in around 97 minutes. That's what most action movies were. There weren't many, like of the 90s, of the early 2000s. 90 minutes is pretty good for an action movie or a comedy.
Yeah, and I will say, as I said, added time is much better than just the 1 hour that they have. Like 1 hour is a little too short for 1/4 is a lot worse than just you're cutting like 3.5.
But you can show a lot more.
That's like a
showings
whole
of it in a day.
Episode.
If you put it in a theater, you can show a lot more showings of it. That's probably, I don't know if that's what they were thinking or not.
Yeah, maybe. They do like add in more cut sequences, such as when that fire monster, when they were taking him during the amnesia arc through the Tau. The fire monster, the whole betrayal thing is in there. The masked swordsman fight with King Baron, the Dale Vulcan fake love conflict, except the shadow puppet part that didn't make it in Spaceship to the Unknown. The three
Thankfully
underwater men and Orangopoid have close-ups in this version. As I said, those were fantastic, except for the ones of the three underwater men. And the electric door conflict is all here as well. I liked the electric door conflict where they were having a conflict with but the door
With an
was
electric door.
electrified, and so like the villain
Right.
is like chipping in to help this, and he runs away and all that stuff. Editing is a lot more natural because they keep like the actual serial editing much more. And they removed the playful music that I said makes it seem more like, comical, less serious kind of movie, which doesn't help an opinion of this movie, I will say myself. A couple little bits that were shown, like, Dale being hypnotized with the ray, they just cut her being hypnotized with the ray to just showing it right after. They do show some of that in the Rocketship, and they do show it in the serial. They cut the firing squad cliffhanger, still, which was out of pocket, I do agree. The beginning of the movie seems to be even shorter than Rocketship's cut because it doesn't have the world in panic. They cut down him receiving the letter that he is foregoing Polo, so he's just there on a plane. Also, the second High Priest actually planting the bomb at the end. They have that in Rocketship, but not in Spaceship to the Unknown. They cut that for some reason.
You could put something more adventurous
there. They make different choices for this. The major edits are that they cut straight from the tournament arc to being given their freedom. They cut the, Dale and Flash establishing a relationship in the Amnesia arc and the Invisibility arc. Cutting these was a great decision. Because I said the latter half where they're just wandering around in the one palace, getting rid of these episodes I didn't think were interesting at all is a good thing. I will say that. That's one of the things that makes this version my recommended version.
That's what I was about to say. I think you're saying that.
Yeah, number one is the editing is better.
This cut's
number two
better
is the
than
music is
Rocketship
the original
cut.
style.
Yeah.
Number three, well, of course, along with the editing, there's like more of the stuff in that explains things, which is good. The third thing is that they cut this part, which was what I wanted, except they still cut the Sharkman episodes, which is like, seriously, man, like just an hour 45. Come on, hour 30, hour 45. Come on, just add 15 minutes with those Sharkman episodes in there, and you're golden. That's my.
There's a 2 hour. There's a 2 hour.
If I were to cut it in a movie, that would be.
There's a 2 hour fan cut somewhere online.
Yeah, I did see. Spaceship to the Unknown had silent movie cuts where they add like Queen music or something over top of it, and they add like intertitles and they make it like old feeling, I guess.
Yeah.
Like what they did with Indiana Jones when they like turned it black and white and silent, but without intertitles to show like I guess the artistry of it.
I did not know they did.
I don't understand why they did that to Flash Gordon though. But it's funny, like listening to Queen music while all this craziness is going on. Anyway, the Sharkman episodes, no recurring characters in the Sharkman episodes, so I understand cutting them. I just like some of the effects, and I like the idea of like going through 3 different like alien versions, including the 4th, which is the original kinds. Like, just expanding that world. I liked that. That was good. Under the water, pretty good.
Also, there were cuts that there was during this was the Spaceship to the Unknown is the 1966 kind of era cut of this. The 1950s cut, they don't have the name Flash Gordon in the title. It's called Space Soldiers. The reason why they said Space Soldiers is because in 1954 there was a TV version of Flash Gordon. It's like an original. It wasn't Buster Crabbe. It was another actor, and they told different stories. It had episodes and everything. They didn't want to confuse people with what they saw on their TV screen with what they had in the movies. If you think that movies don't do this anymore, they do. Movie studios were afraid that you'd be confused by the TV version of a character that you then see in the, that may be one of the reasons why they're canceling the CW show of Superman and Lois, because they have a movie reboot coming out maybe next year that's got an all new cast and everything. They're rebooting, like I said, they're rebooting the DC cinematic universe. So they don't want you to be confused. But that doesn't make any sense because they're going to have a new Batman movie in that universe, but they're going to have new Batman movies that have the Robert Pattinson character in it. So obviously they don't, out of one side of their mouth, they're saying you're going to be confused by us having two things in the same, floating around in the same movie verse. Not the same movie verse, but you know what I'm saying? You're going to be confused.
Yeah, because they have the series, like with, shoot the green with the arrow. Green Arrow?
Yeah, that already canceled. So
all right, let's roll with the production. What makes Flash Gordon Flash Gordon?
Well, specifically, as I mentioned before, Buck Rogers predates it. That's 1928, and they wanted their own. King Features wanted their own version of like a Buck Rogers kind of character. So they got a artist, writer, whatever. His name is Alex Raymond. In fact, anywhere you see Flash Gordon, they're going to give you're going to say, "Oh, Alex Raymond," because he's basically the, kind of the creator really of Flash Gordon. Some inspirations for Flash Gordon would be an author named E. Doc Smith, who wrote the Skylark series, which there's lots of elements that you find in Star Wars that are in Skylark, and there's lots of elements of Green Lantern that are in Skylark.
Would be interested in reading it.
There's a book by Philip Wiley, who also wrote a book called Gladiator, which it's not based upon the movie. The movie's not based off that. Philip Wiley's Gladiator inspired Superman. The story of Superman. Okay. Philip Wiley wrote a novel called When Worlds Collide.
And we're doing that one.
We're doing that. It comes out in 1951, the movie version. A planet is going to collide with Earth. So, Mongo, huh? Yeah, so they got that. That's where he got Mongo. The thing is, though, a lot of these movie production companies like Columbia, Republic Pictures, and Universal, they made these serials, but they were considered let's get them out as quickly as possible. The first 3 episodes are supposed to be the ones they spend the most money on, and then the ones in the middle, a lot of times they were kind of filler, kind of arcs, and then they would have like whole episodes that were kind of recap episodes that would have, hey, like a clip show. Remember that time when we did this? And it would show a clip from an earlier thing, to kind of remind us, saved money. It saved money, right? But they never threw a lot of money at these things. But strangely enough, the first Flash Gordon serial in 1936, it actually did really well, really good money.
I think that's interesting. Are there like any shows that you particularly remember having a cliff show? Likely as like a penultimate episode or so, where they're like, here's what happened all before this final thing to happen.
Yes, there was an episode of Star Trek that I remember where Riker was under the influence of an alien, like parasite or something like that, and he's knocked out. And what they have to do is access parts of his brain to show him moments, emotional moments. So they basically go back and have episodes with Riker in it that were very emotional in good ways. And they're like, no, the parasite is being affected by moments of fear or anger. And so they show clips from prior episodes where he's really in stress.
But I mean specifically in terms of like a penultimate episode before the final one of a season to go like, here's all what happened before then to catch you up to this final conflict.
I haven't seen that very much. A lot of times they'll do it just to save money. Clip shows are just to save money.
Yeah, I did see one particular show that did that, but otherwise, like, I guess it is pretty rare to do that specifically.
Okay, so Buster Crabbe, he was a former, like another famous pulp hero actor, Johnny Weissmuller. They both played Tarzan. The earliest Tarzan that got played was by the same guy who plays Prince Thun in the first deal. His name is Pierce, is his last name.
I think that was Edgar Rice Burroughs' favorite Tarzan to him.
Yes,
was
but
the Thun
his
guy.
appearance, but his appearance didn't look really what we think Tarzan looks like. And he actually wore like a cloak looking thing that kind of covered his belly because he had a little. Because here's the thing: strong men before guys like Johnny Weissmuller and Buster Crabbe were more barrel-chested, big belly guys. If you look at the earliest strong
King Fulton.
men, yeah, like that. They're very strong, but they've got a big barrel. In fact, if you look at there's a competition called World's Strongest Man, and a lot of those guys have got the big muscles, but they got the big barrel chest and the big belly sometimes too, and they're picking up these really heavy things,
bulking up. Yeah.
So that's strength right there. But let me explain the way that a swimmer, Buster Crabbe is a swimmer, Johnny Weissmuller is a swimmer. The way that a swimmer looks is muscular but very slim. In fact, that's what when we have pictures of like from the comic strip, the superheroic appearance, it looks like a swimmer. It looks like Buster Crabbe. It looks like Johnny Weissmuller. Strong but slender. I mean, that's what Superman looks like. You look at Superman, a lot of these heroes, Batman, they all look like that. They don't look like the big barrel-chested, big belly, guy, strongman type.
Mm-hmm.
They look like Johnny Weissmuller and
that
Buster
just
Crabbe.
reminded me of comparing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to the rise of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, of course, as the 80s, the 90s television, the whatever came out, when they all had the standard shape design versus Rise had a Raphael that was like bigger, and it's like I wonder if that's like the represents like sort of like a difference of strength, like in terms of like the swimmer type versus like them thinking about the strong.
I think they
type.
were also trying to make it where you could tell them apart a lot better. The
yeah,
only way you can really tell.
He stands out particularly because of that, because he's the biggest turtle.
Yes,
and also the turtle with the biggest heart, probably. But I haven't seen any.
So another Universal. Let's talk about Universal, because Universal is not the ones who made Rocketship. They're the ones who made the Flash Gordon serials. Carl Laemmle Jr. He kind of put the whole studios at risk and in receivership. There's a company called SSC or SCC or something like that, and they didn't really see the future of these serials, and so you didn't really put as much money in them. That's why they look so cheap.
But it's interesting to think that even still, like having a science fiction thing of this caliber and effects, like this is within the first 10 years of sound being created. Just to put in this into perspective.
Think how far they've come, right? Buster Crabbe wasn't going to play Tarzan anymore because the popularity of Johnny Weissmuller's Tarzan caused MGM to get the main rights to Tarzan after that. And so they kind of couldn't do anything. And he kind of went and did an audition as a lark. He was like, give it a shot. Buster Crabbe's acting, wasn't he was serious about it, and he gave it his all. But it wasn't his best acting. He found that his acting got better later on. Later on, he was in a series, another serial series that actually had him and his young son in it too. He was like a part of some kind of Foreign Legion thing.
I think actually a lot of this movie's acting is pretty well done, with some exceptions. Like some people didn't do that well, especially with the voiceover.
I think
little
Thun
bits
and
where he's
Bear,
like, "My go-go
Thun
bear,
and well,
here's my
Thun
Urso."
and right. Thun and Baron though sound like they're going, "We have to go over the thing and do the thing." Da 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 da. It's just real flat.
Yeah, I'd say Zarkov, out of the main cast, is one of those flat.
Buster Crabbe's giving it his all, but here's the thing. He believes that his acting got better later in his career, and he might be right. I haven't seen a lot of his later stuff. Charles Middleton plays Ming. He's been in so many movies. He's played a lot of different kinds of characters. I know this is a weird connection. His
acting was solid in this one.
It was. And also the actor Max von Sydow, who plays Ming the Merciless in the 1980 movie, he based a lot of his, and he based a lot of his acting on Charles Middleton from the serial. Anyway, there's a lot of things in this that that would inspire later things. There's a lot of conceptual stuff that Star Wars has in it that got from Isaac Asimov's Foundation series, or the Skylark of Space from E.E. Smith, so that I mentioned earlier. So, and again, George Lucas wanted to make a Flash Gordon movie, but couldn't get the rights to it, and so then he made his own thing, and he went, I'm just going to do a lot of crazy stuff that I got inspired by the Flash Gordon movies in the first place. So because of that, we have a lot of cool stuff.
I saw this one note I made about them being in a gorge, and I was like, oh, remember when they did that a lot in the Bronson Canyon? I think. Remember when Star Trek did that a lot?
Bronson Canyon. Well, Star Trek does the whole thing with the there's those rocks that they go to angle. Can't remember the name of that area is called again. I know Bronson Caverns. Yeah, they filmed a lot of stuff over there. A lot of movies did. We could probably, we don't.
Yeah, sort of like the Power Rangers thing where they just move to a middle of
in the quarries, rock quarries. Yeah, they did a lot in Japan, so they just duplicated that for the American stuff. The thing is, Flash Gordon and that character means so much moving forward in terms of space fantasy adventure.
Yeah, it would start off Star Wars,
Yep.
and George Lucas doing stuff with American Graffiti and what are all the things that he was inspired by.
Yes. Flash Gordon, it fits into the form of science fiction. It's otherwise known as space opera. You've probably heard that before. The term space opera comes from...
Yeah, there's not so much technology as much as Roman armor and Chinese emperor.
They gloss over things, laser swords. Okay, Death Stars. They just gloss over the Force. They gloss over those things. One thing to mention is that the name comes from people jokingly calling westerns horse opera. So what are these science fiction movies? Space opera. Your mileage may vary. I mean, some of it's just kind of fun adventure, and you kind of got to turn your brain off. Don't think about too much how repulsors or blasters work, or
it's an adventure.
Yeah, don't think
and
about
that's definitely what this movie slash serial was. In short, I like this one. It's pretty well done. Most of the acting is pretty passable, definitely. I will say there's some elements that might get you down, but that's time based. It's what they were doing at the time with the budget that they had, and so that's a given. But
yeah, they couldn't get the A top actors.
The only thing is the way it ended, the way it began,
and
and the latter part of the serial is bothersome to me in particular. I will say that Spaceship Into the Unknown, instead of Rocketship, would be my recommendation because it has more of the connecting tissue that was left out of Rocketship.
And you can find it on Amazon Prime.
Yes. It's still not
free,
quite perfect, though. The only thing is I would add in those Sharkman episodes. I know they don't contribute anything to the plot, but the effects. And for the sake of completeness of covering every episode's content of the story. And then that's my perfect Flash Gordon movie. That would be that. So I would recommend watching Spaceship Into the Unknown. If you don't have an extra 30 minutes of time, then I would say you resort to this one. They're all complete versions of this movie. They just vary in terms of you will see, as with the Rocketship, will make you think of this Flash Gordon as having less, qualities than the original serial did. As I said, the serial can be bothersome, but Rocketship is way too much cut. A 90-minute cut is the best of both worlds. That is what I recommend. At the end of the day. And it's a pretty great serial, and it's the basis for a lot of things. And I don't think I can say way too more on that, because what they did, they executed well, I will say. Well, one thing is the fight scenes are, and, of course, like some of the lizards, and the, some ways they handle things were a little bit, but it's part of the time. So, excusing all that, that's all I have to say. What do you think?
He'll save every one of us.
Do you concur? You concur.
I do. Every man, every woman, every child. Thanks for hanging out with us for 50 episodes. And the bonus episodes, too. Those are some of my favorite ones. Go back and see those. I know those are not science fiction.
Yeah, I will say for the first time covering a serial, and this, this one is just a big pop culture hit in terms of, like, worst science fiction. As I said, first fully science fiction serial. Before this, they would have, like, superhero gadgets and stuff like that. Or, like, an invisible magnet beam.
Well, Superman.
Just tiny things here and there. This one,
Superman came out after this, in terms of like the mid 30s. Batman had science fiction stuff in it with that atomic guns
sort of
and all kind of crazy stuff. Yeah, serials are where television was born. You come back every week to see what happens. What is that? Oh, right, streaming media, television of the 50s. That's where that came from.
Yeah, it's a way to be able to spread your media.
It came from the serial.
Spread your media further than a singular location. And to be able to be more convenient for people. But in the meantime, this has been Cinematic Fantastic, covering a cinematic and fantastic serial/movie.
Yep.
I count this as technically we covered the serial because I'd covered all the plot of the serial. Really? That's just,
if you've seen every episode, if you've seen every episode we've done since season 1, congratulations. You've been through all 50 plus the bonus episodes too. You've seen our other content too. If you are new to us, great, welcome aboard. If not, hey, you're welcome to binge some of our past stuff and get where we're coming from as we go forward. We'll do this as long as we feel like doing it.
We still have some science fiction movies to go. We're science fiction nerds. Of course, we're going to cover science fiction. So next one is Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, I'm pretty sure.
Yes. The Universal monsters, they are a joke now.
But
you were scared before, now they're a joke. And
but it's a fun movie. I think literally
I hope you enjoy it. I hope you're able to laugh about
I remember
some of the
watching
tropes.
a little bit of this with you, but like when we were watching before the podcast. So I'm excited to be able to see the entire thing.
But if you don't like Abbott and Costello, William, let them have
who's going to be in the movie? I don't know who's going to be in the movie. Yes, who is going to be in the movie?
That's what I said.
Who is going to be in the movie?
What's on first? Who's on second? I don't know who's on third.
Podcast ending is on fourth. Or
we're going to go.
I guess. See you guys for another exciting episode of not Flash Gordon, Cinematic Fantastic, where we could... Oh, we need to set up a cliffhanger. Quick. Will he survive the epic whatever on Earth happened to William? Tune in next time. See you then.